Welcome. This is our webinar for St George's University of London offer holders. It's fantastic to be speaking to you today. My name's Professor Cilla Harries and I'm the academic lead for international education at St George's. First of all, can I congratulate you on your offer? These places are highly competitive and we're delighted that you've been given an offer and are able to join us today. St George's is actually the UK's only specialist health university. We're part of the University of London, which has a very long-standing history, and we also have a 25-year partnership with Kingston University through the Faculty of Health, Social Care and Education. Kingston has a nursing school, so we have all the range of health professionals linked to our education at St George's. So we're going to I'm going to tell you a little bit about who we are and what we're going to do for you today. So I've introduced myself. I'll also introduce my colleagues here. Elizabeth, who's our expert in compliance and visas. Sarah, who leads our admissions department. And Garret, who's the president of our International Student Society. What we've planned is to take you through a short presentation, and then we're going to be going through the questions which you've submitted. We've grouped them together into themes. And also, if you do have some specific questions you'd like to ask, please do post them in the chat box and we'll try and reach those as well. If for any reason we aren't able to answer any of the questions you've submitted or ones which you've posted in the chat box, we've got your email addresses, so don't worry, we'll be able to contact you and respond to you individually. So these are the courses we have at St George's. As you can see, we have both undergraduate courses and postgraduate courses. I hope that the course you've been offered a place on is listed in one of those areas. Next slide, please. So one of the key unique selling points about our university, which when you're thinking of where you might like to study, is that we're the only university that is co-located within a hospital. So if you look at this map, you can see, for example, there's one of the wings of the hospitals here is part of University of London. So this is the Hunter wing. So you actually enter into the hospital before you come into the university building. What's just fantastic about this is the academics who are teaching you are also those same members of staff in the hospital who are working in a leading London teaching hospital. So they're absolutely up to date, or they may be from our research institutes, so they are researching key areas which will inform your evidence-based education. You can also see on the yellow road, Tooting Broadway Tube Station. The Tube is our underground metro. That's the train line which goes directly into London. So you're quite quickly into central London from the southwest where we're based. Thanks. Can I have the next slide? So what else about St George's? You might have researched some of these facts yourselves, but one of the aspects we're most proud of is that we're top as a university in the UK for graduate prospects. This is a government regulated statistic which is examined every year. What does this mean? Well, it means that you will learn, we're number one, and this also means that all of the universities in the UK, out of all the different ones, we're the one with the highest number of students going into employment or further study. So by being top, it means our students are those most successful in going into employment and further study. The next slide, please. So we have a very long history. You may not be aware that we're established in 1752, and we do have 250 years of experience in education in healthcare. We have some famous alumni. So first of all, Edward Jenner, he pioneered the smallpox vaccine. You may have had that vaccine yourself. Henry Gray, he wrote Gray's Anatomy. This is the standard anatomy textbook used around the world to teach medical students. Patrick Steptoe, he was the pioneer of fertility treatment, and responsible for developing IVF. And Dr. Hannah Valentine, and she's the National Institute of Health's first Chief Officer for Scientific Diversity in Washington, DC. As well as having a long history, we are very modern in every other respect. We have cutting edge facilities. We have just built the new lecture theatre, which you can see in the picture down at the bottom left. We have a fantastic radiography simulation suite, which was only recently completed a couple of years ago with absolute state-of-the-art technology. We have a paramedic simulation suite, and we have an excellent dissection room where students are able to practice learning all about the different muscles and parts of the body. And Garret will tell you a little more about that. We have a great student union social space and an excellent library. Accommodation, that's absolutely key for you to know about as an international student. So it's 15 minutes walk from our campus. You can see photographs here of our accommodation. We have 486 rooms, all with ensuite bathrooms, and they range from 172 to 182 pounds per week. For central London, this is a very good price. Often they are more expensive than this when you look at other universities. If you're an international student and you have a firm acceptance with us, you can apply for your accommodation by the 1st of July, and we will ensure that that is provided for you. If we're your insurance or clearing or adjustment choice, you can apply later in the summer once St George's becomes your firm choice, but obviously there might be a bit more competition for the accommodation by then. We also have a hotel on our university site, so if your parents wanted to come with you to help you settle in, there's space for them to stay as well. So all round, we have a fantastic education provision for you with co-location in a hospital, a long history behind us, as well as cutting-edge facilities. We have a huge range of societies and cultural events on offer for you, which we'd be pleased for you to join in with, and Garret will tell you more about these. So now I'm going to pass over to my first colleague, Sarah, who leads the admissions department, to tell you about admissions.
Thanks, Cilla, and hi everyone. I'm Sarah and I head up the admissions department here at St George's. I just want to take a couple of minutes to talk about the work that my team have been up to this year and also what you can expect in the coming months between now and the start of the new academic year. So firstly, I really wanted to reiterate what Cilla said and congratulate you all on receiving an offer. This year, we have received over 7,000 applications, and that number keeps growing as some of our programmes are still open, and we've made 2,500 offers. So it's a real achievement to be holding an offer, and I'm certainly excited at the prospect of welcoming you as new students this year. So as with all aspects of higher education, COVID-19 has obviously meant that a lot of our standard processes have had to be reviewed and adapted. So that's really what's kept my team busy over the last couple of months. We've been looking at all of our processes and thinking about what we need to adapt and also how our policy might need to become a bit more flexible given the impact around the world. One of the biggest things that we've done is redesign our interview process. We've moved from interviewing people face-to-face in person to interviewing them over video. So you might actually have an offer having submitted one of the video interviews. So thank you if you have and for going along that new process with us. I've been really pleased about the outcome with that. We've seen some really strong applications come through and we've been able to make lots of good offers as we would have done if we had been interviewing people in person. It's also really exciting actually. It's given us far more scope to think about interviewing people remotely in future years as well, which means that hopefully more international students will be able to consider and apply for St George's, knowing that they wouldn't necessarily have to come to the UK to interview. But for those of you that have already gone through the process and already have your offers, I'm sure you have a lot of questions about what you can expect now. So kind of for the next couple of minutes, I'm going to talk about what's going to happen in the coming months before the start of the new academic year. So we're already in June, and June is the month where we need our responses from our offer holders. So if you are a UCAS applicant, you have until the 18th of June to respond to your offer. That is a deadline that UCAS has extended already to try and allow applicants a bit more time to make their decisions. So hopefully by next week we'll have an idea of which choices our applicants have made. For postgraduate offer holders who have applied directly to us by the website, the first response deadline is the 30th of June, but please do, if you're in that position, check your offer letter, because for those who've applied through the website, we have rolling deadlines dependent on when you initially received your offer, so you might have a bit more time. The other thing that happens in June is for offer holders who are holding an offer for our clinical courses, they'll receive more information about how to meet the fitness to practice conditions of their offer. So this is the occupational health test and the police check that's listed in the conditions of your offer. We will email you in the next couple of weeks with more information about how you do both of these checks. Previously, they have been quite reliant on contact, so we have redesigned our processes this year to really minimise contact needed to stay within the government guidelines of social distancing. So you'll receive all the instructions you need to do that, and we're hoping that they'll be really easy and simple for you to follow. I just want to note that it's important that you are able to receive that email. So if you do need to change your email address for any reason, please do so via UCAS Track if you're an UCAS applicant, or email us directly if you have applied to us directly through your website, so we make sure that you're receiving those emails. Once we've done that, the next big step for you will be receiving your results and then hopefully receiving your unconditional offer. So this process is likely to start quite slowly in the middle of July, and those are for applicants who have already got their results. So either people that have taken a gap between their qualifications and applying, or people who get their results a bit earlier. So for example, if you've taken the International Baccalaureate, or if you're finishing a degree, you often get your results earlier than some undergraduate applicants. Generally though, for the majority of applicants, and probably for the majority of you, you won't hear from us until the A-level results come out in the UK, and that this year is the 13th of August. I really appreciate that this year particularly has created a lot of uncertainty around kind of results and how universities will consider the results received, or if there are delays in results. So I want to really reassure you that at St George's we are taking a really flexible approach. We are committed to reviewing all of our offer holders holistically before we make a final decision on them in the summer. So we will look at all of your application if you don't immediately meet the conditions of your offer before we make a final decision. And if you are in a position where there is a qualification as part of the conditions of your offer that you've been unable to take or complete because of the pandemic, we will work with you to consider deferring your place until you have had the opportunity to take that exam. So we're trying to be really flexible and generous to encourage as many people that want to study at St George's to actually come and enrol with us. There is a dedicated frequently asked questions section on our website that is specific for applicants, and shortly that will be joined by an area specifically for international applicants. So I would encourage you all to read those. But if you have any specific concerns about your application, you're always welcome to email admissions on our email address, which is on the PowerPoint there, but it's admissions@sgul.ac.uk, admissions with an S on the end. And also there is a time for questions and answers at the end of this webinar, so I'll try and get through as many of those as possible. So once we've issued our unconditional offers, we move on to preparing you for enrolment and starting as a new student. Enrolment will look different this year as we have to adapt our processes for social distancing and remote working, but the fundamental process will stay the same. So for our international students, we will ask you to pay your deposit, and we will ask you to evidence the qualifications that you have in order to meet the conditions of your offer to confirm your place. We'll obviously also be able to provide you with more information about your course and what it's going to be like at St George's as well. So another key part of preparing you to become a student is to ensure that you have the right immigration permissions. for you to study with us. So this process is part of kind of preparing you to start, but it's actually managed outside of my team, outside of admissions. So it kind of leads me to a really good place for me to hand over to Elizabeth, who can now talk to you specifically about visas and compliance.
Thanks, Sarah. Okay, so my name's Elizabeth, sorry. I head the international advising team here at St George's. So if you go on to the next slide for me. Thank you. So the international advising team is a dedicated team whose remit is to support our international students. And that's from offer holder, from now up until you graduate. We welcome international students from over 50 countries here at St George's. Although we have relatively small international numbers, St George's is a diverse community. We're situated in London, so that means that a lot of our home students have an international background. So in terms of the international advising team, our support covers visas and immigration, and which includes Tier 4. And as Sarah mentioned, we are the team that are responsible for issuing your CAS, checking your Tier 4 application, checking all of your visa documentation. We have dedicated international support pages on the St George's website. If you click onto the making a Tier 4 application, you'll see that we've actually prepared 2 documents, 2 guides for you to assist you with your Tier 4 application, just to make it an easier process for you. But we do every step of the way, the international advising team is supporting your application. In terms of when you receive your CAS number, which is a question that I always get asked, it is only once there's certain conditions you need to meet. You have to be an unconditional offer holder. And as Sarah said, sometimes you won't receive your exam results until mid-August, which means that at the earliest you would receive your CAS then. But you have to make sure you meet all conditions of your offer. So that's not just your academic conditions, it's also your non-academic conditions. So for example, as Sarah mentioned before, your occupational health, your police clearance check as well. You'll also be asked to pay an international student deposit, which will be deducted from your tuition fee. Once you've paid the deposit, your file then gets passed from the admissions team through to the international advising team. And as I mentioned before, we check your visa documentation, so your bank statements, and also once we have that and we're satisfied with that, then we issue your CAS. So your CAS supports your visa, your Tier 4 visa application. So if you just go on to the next slide for me. So we also provide pre-arrival and on-arrival support for our international students. So we have a scheme, a buddy scheme, whereby we match our current international students with new international students. And we try and do that by a programme. The current students are volunteered, they don't get paid for doing this. They've been in your position and they understand what questions and concerns that you have. So it's a good point of contact before you actually arrive in the UK. When you arrive in the UK, we give you practical advice about registering with a GP. We assist you with opening a bank account, provide you with the documentation you need for that. On the international support pages again, if you go back to them, we have a very detailed pre-departure guide that a lot of students have said they found very useful. When you actually come, we have to do a right to study check at enrolment. So that includes checking your visa documentation, your Tier 4 visa. We do have BRPs delivered on site. So when you enroll, we will be able to give you your BRP. We do a welcome program for international students as part of induction. We're planning this at the moment, but it's possibly going to be remote this year. That includes a Q&A panel with existing students. Again, you're given the opportunity to ask international students that have already been with us for a number of years questions about their experience, if they've got any tips about being on the programme, living in the UK, anything that you've got questions about, and it's a good opportunity for you to do that at the start of the programme. It'll give you an opportunity to meet programme staff and support team. So we have somebody from the counselling team there, somebody from the disability team as well. So that will give you a nice welcome to the to St George's campus. You're going to be here for a number of years. In that time, we're always available for current students. We're a good point of contact for non-academic issues. So if you've got any problems with council tax, with tuition fee funding, your flatmates, anything like that, we're a good point of call. And we can always signpost you somebody else that can deal with your query. As your Tier 4 sponsor, we have to ensure that you comply with your Tier 4 responsibilities, and that includes observing your work conditions, making sure you're not working over the hours that you're permitted. As your Tier 4 sponsor, we also have responsibilities, and that includes tracking your attendance and engagement, making sure that we report changes of circumstances. We can give you advice on maybe if you want to intercalate, take an interruption of studies, and just give you advice on visa implications for that. We also, on the fund side, we also do run a social programme for international students, but home students are also welcome. We work closely with the International with the International Student Society, the ISS, and we put on events such as an international lunch. We go outside, we go to ice skating events over Christmas markets, and we do an annual Chinese New Year dinner as well. So lots of stuff, fun stuff to look forward to. After your studies, we're also on hand to provide information about visa options if you do want to remain in the UK. For example, if you're looking to stay on to be a foundation doctor, we'd advise you on what visa you need to acquire. And also, you know, there's the new post-study visa that's coming into play soon, and we can give advice about that. So International Advising Team is here. Like I said, our remit is to support you throughout your studies and beyond. Okay, if you just move to the next slide. So our contact information, student.immigration@sgul.ac.uk. We do have dedicated international support pages on our website. If you have any questions, please do feel free to contact us. And I'm going to now introduce you to Garret, who we've been in contact with a lot because he is the president of the International Student Society and we work quite closely together. So Garret's going to give you an overview of his perspective of being a student at St George's. Thanks, Garret.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Hi, everybody. My name's Garret. I'm the current president of the International Society at St George's. Firstly, I hope everyone is doing well, everyone's staying safe, and that everyone is doing fine so far. Thank you to all of the staff members who have been really good at giving information and passing on information, some which were really crucial and things which I wish I knew when I was applying to George's as well. So that's a really good point. So yeah, next slide, please. So before I begin, I'd just like to give you a more in-depth description of what the ISS actually is. So the ISS works really closely with the international staff members. So you have heard from Elizabeth and a couple others as well. And what we try to achieve is to really try and integrate everybody into the university and try to make university life as seamless as possible, coming from wherever I would say A-level, IB, or diploma background that you have come from. And yeah, it's really to try and integrate everybody into a holistic family and to make life a lot more enjoyable. I understand that coming overseas, for me at least, was a bit daunting as I was so far from home, and you know, not having family around that can be a bit daunting. So that's really what the ISS does. We hold a lot of different activities to try and engage you guys as international students to form that camaraderie and companionship to ensure that everybody is well taken care of. So now let's dive into the life at St. George's, and hopefully my experience will help you make a better decision. So life at George's varies on a day-to-day basis depending on the types of classes that you have or whether or not you are on placement, etc. But it the main focus of George's is really to provide that kind of clinical environment. As Prof. Cilla said in the very first few slides, George's is located in a hospital, and that means you're getting the full hospital experience. I know that can be a bit off-putting to some people, but to me, that's really valuable, as you're seeing real life patients and being real in the corridor. And a staff member once told me when I came into the university first as a fresher, and he said, "You are 50 meters away from a mother, father, sister, brother who needs your help. And hopefully that's enough inspiration, enough motivation for you to work hard and to keep at it." So I definitely think that George's really facilitates that, and it tries to encourage that kind of patient-centered care and that kind of patient-centered focus that you as future clinicians and practitioners should hopefully have. In terms of our student union, we have over 100 different clubs and societies, ranging from dance to music to sports like swimming, badminton, tennis, basketball, and the work. So we really have a bit of everything, and I'm sure you'll be able to really enjoy yourself here and find something that really suits you. The university is very welcoming, so you don't have to be a competitive sports person or someone who is really proficient in music or dance, for example. It's all about a learning experience and really getting that good university life and experience. So we really welcome newcomers and people of all backgrounds, really. Because we are a small university, it actually works in our favor because we are a really tight-knit community. We work together, we have fun together. I have friends across all the different, I would say majority of the different platforms, be it medicine, occupational therapy, clinical pharmacology, physio for myself. And so, I think that's one thing which George's really is really proud of, and something that we can really say that yes, this is very uniquely George's. And another selling point I would say would be the fact that they teach you to be a clinician. I think, when I was considering universities in my time, George's really stood out to me because I'm learning the clinical as well as the theory. So I found that it really, I would say, integrated things really well, and it supported a lot of the concepts that we will be hopefully learning as a future clinician or a future practitioner. And of course, being in Tooting, you're really surrounded with a lot of good food and a lot of very, I would say, easy to access necessities. We have a really big Sainsbury's or really close to the hospital, so that's where a lot of people do their grocery shopping and whatnot. And yes, a lot of good pubs, eateries, dessert places. So there's definitely a lot to do around the university, and everything isn't just confined into it. All right, so that's really a general overview of what George's is, and in my next slide I'll really go in depth to how George's has really impacted me as a person and a future healthcare professional. Next slide, please. So I think from the slides you can see what I've written there, and allow me to focus really on the ambassadorship and the summer dissection. The George's has a student ambassadorship program, one of the few in the University of London, actually, where they have a lot of different outreach programs, a lot of volunteering to really give back to society. I was part of a program called Primary Practice, where we actually went to underprivileged primary schools to actually educate them more about medical and medical related concepts in education. And these were things that really inspired me to continue with this volunteering. And in fact, it was quite funny. Before I came back to Singapore due to this whole COVID thing, I was shopping at one of the nearby shops, and I came across one of my old students in the primary school, which I taught in Primary Practice, and I caught up with her, and she was with her parents and all that. And so I asked her, has this, what we've done really motivated you in any way? And she said, yeah, I really want to be a physiotherapist right now. I think you've really helped me, motivated me, and that really warmed my heart. It really showed that I made an impact into someone's life, and I think that's really rewarding. So such programs is one, from many that ambassadors do. And I find that it really helps you in terms of your people skills. You know, you interact with many different types of people from all walks of life, and it really tries to facilitate that outgoingness, I would say, so that the university tries to encourage as well. So some of the section, I know Prof did give a little teaser of what that is. The dissection room we have in George's is, I would say, one of the state-of-the-art dissection rooms. I think we pride ourselves with the fact that we are able to provide really hands-on and real-life anatomy and practical workshops. And George's is the only university that I know of in the UK, actually, which offers a full dissection from head to toe. And that was something which I had the privilege and the honor of participating in. And honestly, it's been one of the best experiences which I have ever had. You know, working closely with surgeons and anatomists who have spent their lives doing these things. You know, using surgical grade tools, learning different concepts on how to suture or how to use a scalpel, for example, and all the various tools and things. And it's really interesting because you see how clinically this is so relevant, the diseases and the issues that can come out of the human body. And I think the best way is to learn it hands-on. And I would say it's a real privilege for George's to have such a facility, and it has definitely aided my learning. When I was in year one, physio is a very intense course because we really integrate the practical side of things as well with the theoretical, and we had to learn anatomy really in depth. And so I found myself studying in the dissection room a lot, actually, to really hold my knowledge as a future clinician. Yes, so those two I would say would be the really big areas in which George's has really impacted me. And going down the list, the interprofessional faculty which they have, having the resources that George's has in addition to Kingston, I would say it's second to none, really. The ability to reference things and look for such wide material, it is definitely a treat to be in such a university. But one thing I found really interesting about George's was the personal and close relationships I really have with my lecturers and professors. You know, I'm able to go to them whenever I need help, and they will always be there to try and facilitate and try and help whenever possible, really. And so I found that it really filled a lot of the gaps which I had theoretically, as changing from a college to a university life is really dramatic. And so they helped fill in that small little gaps or misconceptions I had whenever I encountered those. And I found that really helpful. But I think finally, really, it's the fact that George's really facilitates the best version of yourself. And what I mean by that is they do push you, but it's only to the extent in which you push yourself. If you wish to go much more in depth or further, you know, these people are doing research and they are at the prime or the top of the game. So there is always a lot of opportunity which George's has, and I think that's a real big point which other universities, I would say, may not really offer. And this is something which I honestly say that George's is I'm really proud of. Yeah. So hopefully that's a better understanding, you know, of what life at George's really is, and how we train you guys to really be a patient-centered practitioner, and how, although we really strive for you to do well, but we also want you to have really good fun and try and facilitate as much learning as you can. So, yep, that's all from me, and thank you very much. I think now we are going on to one of the final segments of our webinar, which is really to answer any of your questions. So please do keep them coming. Thank you very much.
Hi everyone. So I'm Lauren and I'm working in the marketing team and I'm a co-organizer for this webinar. So I'm going to be drawing on some of the questions that you submitted and putting them to our panel. So we've grouped these questions around different areas. So the first area is grades and admissions. So I have a couple of questions for Sarah. Sarah, I would like to know, will the university accept predicted grades coming up in August?
Lauren, did you want to ask a question?
Sorry, broke up a little bit. Did you say will we accept predicted grades in August?
Yeah,
Yes.
sorry, I think I lost connection there. It was about predicted grades coming up in August and whether they'll be accepted.
So it depends a little bit on what people predicted grades. For some of our applicants who are taking A-levels this year, they will be receiving calculated grades, so are not based on taking exams, so in that way they're predicted. And yes, we will be considering those as though they were achieved grades. It's best if you are unable to take your exam, but you have predicted grades, to contact admissions directly for us to talk about that.
Great, thanks, Sarah. I have another one, which is, if other universities have not gotten back to me, when is the latest that I can reply to George's to accept this offer?
So if you are a UCAS applicant, so one of our undergraduate courses, you have until the 18th of June. If there are other institutions that you haven't heard back to from via UCAS, you may want to contact UCAS to ask whether they are able to extend that for you or not. If you are a graduate applicant that has applied through our website, your specific response deadline will be listed in your offer letter, and they start on a rolling basis from the 30th of June. And if you require an extension of that, we're happy to discuss that with you, so please contact admissions to directly talk about that.
Thanks, Sarah. Will the IELTS indicator test scores be accepted?
So I know that IELTS has issued an IELTS indicator, which actually at the moment isn't, it's in the of your performance as opposed to a result to a test. So an initial exam that you can do from home and that we already accept, and our requirements are listed on our website. I would encourage you first to see whether there's another formal test that you can take to meet the requirements. If you've looked at those options and the IELTS indicator is the only way you can demonstrate your English ability, we will consider that on a case-by-case and email admissions to talk about that specifically about your application.
Thanks, Sarah. So I think we're experiencing a little bit of breaking up. So I'll move on to one of our other panelists and we'll look at accommodation. So Cilla, could you talk us through whether students will be able to move into Horton Halls this September?
Yes, thanks, Lauren. Yes, so on our website, we have all the information. If my colleagues can stay on mute, thanks so much. It's just a little bit of background noise, thanks. So basically, if you're a firm offer holder, we are able to guarantee you accommodation if you're able to apply by the 1st of July. If later on you are able to convert to firm, there will hopefully be still some accommodation available for you. We're expecting that to be the case, but we would recommend that you book in as early as you can. You can actually apply now if you want to for accommodation, as long as you're a firm offer holder.
Thank you, Cilla. And another one for you, Cilla, this time on fees and funding. What do you recommend to postgraduate international students who have been affected by the economy but still want to study?
Yes, we do appreciate it's a very difficult position for everyone right now. So as students, you're actually defined as vulnerable, which means that we have to guarantee appropriate accommodation, for example, our halls of residence. We also do have hardship funds available, which people can apply for, which you have to be deemed to be in need of those, but there is a fund which we do provide to support students if they run into hardship. If you do come and you're having to self-isolate or be in quarantine, we would help you with helping you to obtain food, and we will make sure that all the cleaning and medical supplies you need to undertake your studies are funded, because you may need, for example, to wear a small mask or something during some teaching sessions. But we will increase all our cleaning and we'll provide all of the costs for that. We also recognise you might need some continued kind of support. So we have a wellbeing and disability support unit, which you can access when you join. And mental health is so important, so we've expanded our counselling provision. So we're here if and when you need any support. We also have the Big White Wall. That's an online support service which can be accessed 24/7. So a lot of different ways in which we'd be keen to support you.
Thank you, Cilla. I've got a question for Garret. This one is about the teaching style and whether it's more difficult for international students. And I think this is from someone from the USA.
Cool. Thanks for your question. From my experience, George's teaches, the way George's teaches is it's standardized. So it doesn't really matter where you come from. The teaching style is always the same. However, I understand that there can be issues adapting to different teaching styles, and definitely if that is the case, you can always bring it up with, again, like I said, the lecturers, or you can always ask your fellow coursemates or students. But from my experience, actually, I do have a student from Canada and I think one from the US as well in my course. And they've been perfectly fine. In fact, doing really, really well. So I would say keep an open mind. Definitely give it a shot. And if really needs arise, there's always people to support you. So don't worry too much about it and just try and enjoy university as much as possible.
Thanks, Garret. Right, Elizabeth, I've got a question for you. So will international students start this September? And if so, when will we get our CAS numbers? Elizabeth, I think you might be on mute.
Sorry. International students are expected to arrive on campus at the start of term. Obviously, we understand that there will be sort of visa and travel delays for some of the students, but we are encouraging students to arrive at the start of term. In terms of the CAS, as I mentioned before, you have to be an unconditional offer holder. So you have to have met all conditions of your offer, both academic and non-academic, and have your visa documentation checked by the international advising team. So there's no set date on when you receive your CAS. It depends on lots of different factors. Visa application centres are slowly starting to reopen around the world now. So students can apply for their Tier 4 application, and it is possible for some students to arrive on time at the start of term. In terms of postgraduate students, more information will be coming out shortly, and we just advise them to keep looking on the website at the frequently asked questions, and there'll be updates regularly for that.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Cilla, how many international students are there at St George's?
Well, we certainly have students from all over the world, and that's great. And St George's is keen to increase the internationalisation experience for students with us. At the moment, we have between about 5 to 10% international students on our courses.
Super, thank you, Cilla. Sarah, will international students move into accommodation even if lectures are delivered online?
Yes, they will. So accommodation bookings are open now, and the contracts start from September as normal.
And another one for you, Sarah. Are you considering to provide English online pre-sessional courses?
We don't offer pre-sessional courses, unfortunately, but there is a range of support for our students. So should you need some additional support, there are people you can speak to once you've enrolled.
Thank you, Sarah. So now I've got some questions that just focus kind of on COVID arrangements. So I'll start with one for Cilla. So will there be any in-person lectures for any courses during autumn 2020?
Yeah, very important question. So for every undergraduate course, that's bachelor's, any essential hands-on teaching will be taking place on campus, and we will be putting the appropriate safety measures in place. So we are expecting you to arrive for the beginning of the term, and the term dates are advertised on our web pages. To enable us to have the necessary distancing measures in place, the numbers on campus at any one time will have to be quite carefully managed so that all the teaching can be supported going forward. And where we can, if for example there's some lectures which we might put online for you, we'll be doing that in order that we can spread out the essential face-to-face teaching on the campus itself.
Thank you, Cilla. Sarah, I've got a question that says, if we are unable to travel by the start of the course, can we come later in the semester or postpone the start date to the next academic year?
We are not offering January starts, so all of our courses are meant to be starting on time. We will absolutely consider deferral requests from our applicants, and they can contact admissions directly to discuss that.
Thank you, Sarah. Just having a look through the questions, see if there's anything that we haven't covered. Just another one, Cilla, on travel arrangements. For those undergraduate courses that do require some physical attendance, how will travel uncertainty be handled?
Which section is that one in, Lauren?
In the COVID-19 course arrangements.
Thank you. So this is the question. If we're unable to travel by then, can we come later in the semester? I think Sarah just answered that one, didn't she?
No, it's above this. The course requires physical attendance for a few courses. With travel uncertainty, how will this be handled?
Oh yes, thanks so much. Yeah. So at the moment, it's quite difficult to know how long the current disruption will last. And we fully appreciate that everyone's circumstances are different, and some students may be unable to travel to the campus in time for the start of term. We're hoping to accommodate this as much as possible. Certainly for our undergraduate courses, we do have some face-to-face essential teaching on site, which we're planning. For postgraduate courses, please keep an eye on our website. We'll be making announcements soon for those. What we will do is we'll identify the latest possible course start date, which you would need to be on the campus for to actually engage in the essential face-to-face practical teaching sessions. And so we'll make sure that you have those so you know what the absolute deadline is.
Thanks, Cilla. Within the same section, there's a question about consideration if a person didn't get the English language test as a result of COVID-19. And I think there's a list of alternatives.
So on our web pages, we have put a list of alternative English language tests that we can accept. And it does include the internet-based TEFL, the test of English as a foreign language, which you are able to complete at home. And more information about this test can be found on the TEFL website. But there's quite a big range of English tests you can look at there on our web pages. So if you do intend to take the international-based TEFL, please do contact admissions on admissions@sgul.ac.uk to let us know that you intend to take that to meet the condition on your offer. If you aren't able to take any of the alternative English language tests listed on our website, then we may possibly consider the IELTS indicator test, but please look at the list we provide first of all and see if you can go for one of those first.
Thanks, Cilla. I've got just a question for Garret from a more general question set about interaction with kids from other schools.
Yes, so that's I'm a bit uncertain about that question, but if you're talking about interaction in terms of volunteering, like I said just now, there's a wide range of opportunities for you to interact with people from all walks of life as an ambassador, or even if you're doing research with, let's say, particular researchers or professors or doctors in the university. If you talk about meeting other kids in terms of other universities, because Georges is part of the University of London, we are, I would say, informed of all the various freshers activities or the various, I would say, University of London activities which are taking place in and around London. So you're definitely more than welcome to participate in those if you do have the time. Hopefully I've answered that question well.
Thanks, Garret. So I think that we've covered the majority of the questions submitted kind of prior to this webinar. Just a quick note that we haven't answered those questions which were very specific to someone's application, and we can come back to you with more detail. We've tried to answer some of those broader questions. We have received a few questions during the webinar, so I'm going to put these out to the whole panel to see if anyone can help answer. So the first one is, I would like to ask you if international students will be on the quarantine after arriving in the UK.
I can answer that. So from the 8th of June, the UK government said there's mandatory self-isolation for any visitors coming into the UK. So that includes students. So students will be required to isolate on arrival, and they will have to provide their contact information when they arrive in the UK.
Thanks very much, Elizabeth.
Just to add a little bit more there, I think it's for 2 weeks, I believe, Elizabeth?
Yeah, 14 days, 2 weeks, yeah.
And we do know that you can give the address, if you're coming into halls, you can give that accommodation address, and we'll make sure that the services are there to support you whilst you're required to self-isolate.
Thanks both. I have someone that said, thank you for the informative presentation. As an incoming international student, I understand the UK has the rules in place to self-isolate for 2 weeks. How will the university be able to assist during this time period? So I think that's similar to what you've just answered, Cilla.
Yes, so obviously in this last term, we still have some students in our accommodation. Some of them are our international students. They're taking their exams, or they might have preferred to stay in the UK during this time rather than travel home. And occasionally we have a student who has had to self-isolate. So actually it's not been very common, but it's meant that we've already set up all the provisions. So if you did have to self-isolate, or if you are arriving and you've got the quarantine period, everything is set up ready to support you. So or shopping will be done for you, and all the halls are set up to make sure that everything's in place according to the government guidelines. So we also have an international support group, and there's also group meetings as well for international students in hall. So if that was ever the situation, you wouldn't be on your own. We'd always be looking after you.
Thank you, Cilla. I've got another question in the chat. Do Year 1 students still have to attend clinical attachments? If so, do the clinical attachments start in term 1?
Yeah, so it depends on the course that you're in. For medics wise in Year 1, I understand that you guys do have some GP placements, but having said that, I think we will have to wait out as to the government guidelines and the university guidelines as to whether or not these can go through. If you're talking about physiotherapy, we do not have placements per se, but we do have this thing called PAL, which is peer assisted learning, where you actually shadow third years who are on their last couple of placements to get a feel of what clinical placements is really like. But yes, if you count that as placements, then yes. I understand for radiography and a couple others as well, you do get tasters here and there. So you do get some, I would say, clinical experience in your first year, but it's really to prep you for your future years. But having said that, again, we need to wait out for government as well as university guidelines to ensure that you guys are safe and that things can go on as per normal. So, yeah.
Thank you, Garret. I've got one that says, how flexible is St George's being with the achieved exam scores? Is there a tolerance for how many points can be missed?
So I can answer that one. We are going to be looking at all applications holistically if someone hasn't immediately, obviously met the conditions of their offer. So we are going to try to be as flexible and as generous as possible with exam results if the rest of the application, which includes the content of the application, like the personal statement, but also, if applicable, things like the performance interview. If as a whole application we feel as though that person can thrive on the course, we will be able to make some allowances for grades. But initially we will look to see whether the academic criteria has been met before we look at people holistically.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm just having a quick look through the question box. I've got one that says, if I've applied for the 2021 term, should I apply for accommodation this year or next?
So if you are planning on starting in September 2021, you don't need to apply for accommodation until this time next year, essentially when the applications for that academic year will open.
Thank you, Sarah. So I've gone through that question box. If we haven't reached your question, it's because we've deemed your question to be quite specific to your circumstances, and it's something that will require a more personalised response. And we will get back to you with an answer. But for the kind of sake of everyone kind of on the webinar, I think that's where we'll leave it for all of those questions. So a huge thanks to our panellists. I'm going to hand back over to Cilla.
Thank you very much. I did just see one more question which perhaps we could answer. We were asked, do international students have an option to stay in their home country during the first semester till December? So for undergraduate students, we are planning essential teaching taught face-to-face or possibly some placement contact during term 1. So we are expecting you to come. We appreciate that obviously that has to be in keeping with the government guidelines of your own country or the UK. So obviously we'll try our very best to support you, but we will be issuing the very latest start date for that essential contact. So you're aware of the final deadline for your particular course. For PGT students, postgrads, please do keep an eye on our website because we will be posting some information as soon as we can about that. So just to say, we very much enjoyed talking to you. We hope that we managed to give you some more information about our university and assure you that we're really looking forward to you coming to us, and everything will be in place and we'll do our absolute best to support you. So congratulations on making a great choice of selecting St George's as one of your universities of interest. And we'll perhaps be offering another webinar in due course. So for now, stay safe and take care, and goodbye from us.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Take care, everybody.